Saydnaya Prison, the symbol of terror and slow death in Syria, known as the human slaughterhouse by Amnesty International. According to the Syrian Network for Human Rights, 200,000 people were tortured to death between 2011 and 2024, with their bodies either burned, dissolved in acid pits, or crushed in body presses inside Bashar al-Assad's slaughterhouses. Saydnaya Military Prison, infamous as the human slaughterhouse, is a place where humanity ceases to exist, and the living are buried before their souls leave their bodies. Located north of Damascus, it feels detached from the world. It's a self-contained realm ruled by madness, where torture and death are the regime's tools of control. Location of Saydnaya Prison, situated approximately 30 kilometers north of Damascus in the mountainous region of Saydnaya. The prison is isolated from large residential areas, making it easier to conceal the atrocities committed within its walls. The remote and rugged location makes access difficult. Security around the prison is stringent, and visitors are strictly prohibited from approaching or entering its premises. It is here that mass executions and unimaginable forms of torture are carried out against detainees. Reasons for detention: arbitrary and illogical. In the Syrian regime, logic and evidence are unnecessary for imprisonment in Saydnaya's dungeons. Criticizing the regime, being related to a suspected individual, belonging to a different sect, or being falsely accused of a fabricated charge are sufficient reasons. Crimes leading to detention: peaceful protests, distributing leaflets, or merely being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Arresting children: even children are not spared, as they are thrown into cells simply for writing anti-regime slogans or innocently dreaming of freedom. Life in the prison: a living hell. The conditions inside Saydnaya are beyond what any human mind can fathom. Overcrowded cells: prisoners are crammed into cells barely large enough to contain them. Filth and disease: moldy walls, unbearable odors, lice infestations, and a lack of clean water make disease a daily reality. Food: rations are barely enough to sustain life, often contaminated or infested with worms. Prisoners have been known to share a single olive among 5 detainees, or break their teeth trying to chew olive pits just to stave off starvation. The guards' hearts of stone and blood-stained hands. The guards at Saydnaya are more akin to instruments of oppression than human beings. Unimaginable cruelty: they treat prisoners like animals, beating them senselessly and relishing in their humiliation. Psychological and physical abuse: the guards hurl insults, spit on prisoners, and kick them without provocation. The prison's horrors: torture and death. Saydnaya Military Prison is not merely a place of confinement, it is a facility designed to crush the human spirit. Its architecture and operations are tailored to maximize suffering. Design inspired by darkness. Structure: the prison comprises multiple floors, including hidden underground levels where the most horrific atrocities are committed. Underground levels: these secret floors house detainees in complete isolation, cut off from the outside world, where torture occurs far from prying eyes. Recent attempts to free prisoners following a prison break 2 days ago revealed small, narrow ventilation openings. Moisture traces around these openings suggest that prisoners underground struggle to breathe. Following the guards' destruction of electrical generators before fleeing, ventilation has become nearly impossible. This has led to cases of suffocation among detainees, prompting rescue teams to dig through walls and floors to reach them due to the hidden entrances' inaccessibility. Psychological manipulation: the prison is designed to disorient detainees, depriving them of any sense of time or place, leaving them in a state of perpetual fear. Prison sections, where death and survival are ordered: ground floors, used for initial processing of new detainees before assigning them to cells. Torture begins here, referred to as the reception phase, where prisoners are brutally beaten until they lose consciousness. Underground levels host the darkest, most isolated cells, devoid of light or communication. Mass executions and the most severe torture occur here. Execution rooms, known as the slaughterhouse, where prisoners are hanged or killed by other means. Bodies are disposed of in mass graves, burned, or crushed to make room for more. Investigators have found bone-crushing machines, furnaces for burning bodies, and piles of ashes near the prison. Torture methods in Saydnaya Prison. Torture in Saydnaya is part of daily routine, designed to break the will and slowly kill the prisoner. Reception phase. New detainees are forced to kneel and beaten with batons, wires, and spiked rods for hours, often causing fatal injuries. Mock executions. Prisoners are lined up as if for execution, only to be returned to their cells, prolonging the psychological torment. Starvation and thirst. Detainees are deprived of food and water for days, forcing them to drink contaminated water or eat insects to survive. Immersion in freezing water. Prisoners are made to sit in freezing water for hours until they seize up or pass out. Beatings to death. Prisoners are repeatedly struck with metal rods or thick wooden sticks until they succumb to their injuries. Psychological and sexual abuse. Detainees are forced to listen to others being tortured and are subjected to sexual violence, regardless of age or gender, as a weapon of humiliation. Hanging by limbs. Prisoners are suspended by their hands or feet for hours, causing muscle tears or broken bones. Burning with cigarettes. Guards extinguish lit cigarettes on prisoners' bare skin. Cramped cells. Detainees are forced into tiny cells where they cannot move or lie down properly. The daily reality. Death by inches and sanitary conditions. Prisoners endure lice infestations, respiratory infections, and untreated wounds in filthy surroundings. Contaminated food. Meager rations are often spoiled or infested with maggots. Sleep deprivation. Prisoners are kept awake for weeks through constant screaming or physical assaults. A call to action. Saydnaya Prison is not just a detention facility, it is a machine for physical and psychological extermination. The world's silence amplifies the tragedy of its victims. The testimonies emerging from Saydnaya paint it as a symbol of the terror inflicted by the Syrian regime upon its people. It is a stain on humanity and a silent cry for justice. The human slaughterhouse is more than a description, it is a cry for help, awaiting justice to end this eternal nightmare. While justice remains elusive, the voices of Saydnaya's victims echo, narrating their suffering and demanding accountability for the
هالطفل ما بحياته شاف شمس أو سماء أو بحر أو شجرة، لأنه انولد وعاش بسجون النظام وهي عالمه الوحيد اللي بيعرفه. بس شو ممكن تروي قصة لطفل بحياته ما دعس خارج الزنزانة؟ هالتحدي عاشه المعارض السوري ميشيل كيلو لما طلب منه أثناء الاعتقال يروي قصة لطفل انولد بداخل الزنزانة.
عم بحكي قصة لطفل بذهني فكرة الطفل المجردة، يعني انه الطفل العصفور والفارة والشمس والنهر والمي والفراشة، وقت الحقيقة المفردات بدي احكي له اياها. فقال لي شو العصفور؟ كيف بدي اشرح له شو العصفور؟ قلت له عم يطير على الشجرة. قال لي شو الشجرة؟ حسيت بالورطة.
مع سقوط النظام رجعت الناس تداولت هالفيديو بكثافة، ورجعنا شفنا تراجيديا الأسر. الله أكبر! بعض المعتقلين طلعوا من المعتقل، بس المعتقل ما رح يطلع منهم قبل وقت طويل.
حاضر سيدي.
شهادات صادمة لسجينات تم اغتصابهم وأنجبوا داخل السجون، ومنهم يلي ما بيعرف أبو أطفاله، ومشاهد وحشية بتفوق الخيال لو شفناها بفيلم رعب كلنا قلنا في مبالغات.
عجيش الحرطي ولا مع عجيش الشارع؟ مع بشار الأسد. الله محيي الجيش الله محيي الجيش النظامي سيدي. ادخل
هالآلة لقوها في المعتقل، بعرفكن على المكبس. من خلال هالآلة بيتم سحق جسم المعتقل بعد إعدامه شنقا لحتى يصير مثل الورقة، وفي مجاري مخصصة لتصريف الدم. وفي سجناء توقف الزمن عندهم لحظة دخولهم الزنزانة، ومساجين قدامى طلعوا من المعتقل وهم مفكرين إنه حافظ الأسد هو الرئيس.
من زمان عبد الناصر.
هذا غير السجناء يلي فقدوا عقلهم أو الذاكرة أثناء الاعتقال.
مبروك يا سوريا تصرع، مبروك يا سوريا تصرع.
المعتقلين والمعارضين على مدى السنوات الطويلة شددوا على أنه هاي المعتقلات كانت كلمة السر في بقاء بيت الأسد لعقود في الحكم، من خلالها تم إخضاع السوريين. لكن شو مصير هالسجون؟ وهل ممكن تتحول لمتاحف لتكون سوريا طوت آخر صفحة من صفحات معتقلات الرأي؟ الحقائق والخبايا رح بتطول كتير، وللحديث أكيد تتمه.